Yes, Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe. If in case you want anything to do with luxury, Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe is your place to be. They do have a swimming pool, they do have a health club. I'm talking about a gym, as well as a full-fledged kitchen and a sleep-in rooms in case you want to spend a night with your loved ones, as well as have fun or take yourself out on a holiday. It is a Monday morning. You are welcome to Issues at Hand. Thank you so much for being a part of Family TV, and of course, good morning family, from where we started with Daphne and Bruno, and here I am once again with Issues at Hand. We're looking at issues that affect us communally, socio-economically, of course spiritually, security-wise, and many other things. But today we are focusing on security particularly. This year alone we have had multiple cases of security breaches, if I may call it, and of course we saw the head of state, General Museveni, coming out to address the issues that concern security, especially down in Kasese, where we had a massacre of students in a school, where it is said that the ADF soldiers came and attacked these schools. They killed about 37 to 40 people, including students, a security guard, and some other community members. Also, we had some issues to do with the northern bypass insecurities, where people were being targeted in their cars, and of course harm was being caused to them. It is said that these were from terror gangs, and we are going to just look at that in general. I would like to start with the president's address, but before I do, I would like to introduce my guest in studio today. His name is Fred Egesa, and he is a security analyst. We are glad to have you in studio. You're welcome.
Thank you so much, and good morning viewers. Good morning Family TV. I'm happy to be here again. This is home because of the background I'll not talk about so much. So I'm happy. Thank you so much.
All right. What is the state of security in our country, Uganda, currently?
I would say that the state of security now is stable. We are fairly stable, irrespective of a few issues that are possibly trying to overlap. The country is stable. I wouldn't say that because we're not under any main invasion. Of course, we have suffered some incursions of ADFs, and this possibly was the second in about several years. Of course, you know, when you are rating about in security matters, you do what we call rating, and you say you don't overdwell on one incident to kind of come up, because investigation and security is a science. You have to look at one item vis-a-vis the time lapse or the time period, and then you are able to create a sequence, and then come up with a situation of a kind of a balanced kind of comment. Because if ADFs attacked the Kichwamba situation, and then of course we had situations where they came in and did some bombings here, and then after a year or two they have come up with the attack on the school where they killed over 30 students. Yes, we can say that those are blows. We cannot deny that they're not blows, but at the same time, if you look at performance, I will not even give them 5%.
Really?
Yes. Because of Uganda is a very big country, and porous borders with so many situations. We have so many disadvantages that would get if Uganda was a weak country, it would be suffering several attacks. But if attacks come in like twice in about 4 years, then you can say that I think we are relatively safe.
All right.
Yeah.
You talked about the Kichwamba incident that happened very many years ago, and I'd like to relate it to what happened in Kasese recently, because people were saying that it is kind of the same script that they followed, killing the students, setting the dormitories on fire. It happened years ago, many years before even we were born, and I'd like to ask you about your opinion. Do you think these two cases are related, and is it a plan that is going to happen even in the future? Are we seeing it happening again?
No, thank you so much. Of course, they are fairly related because we are dealing with institutions, we are dealing with the students, we are dealing with the killings, we are dealing with the same name ADFs, and we are dealing with attacks on dormitories and the fires, setting dormitories, occupied dormitories on fire. Yes, but also we are looking at a situation that these attacks have always been there wherever there has been pressure on ADF. So it's like a situation of saying, please come back home, don't pursue me. It's like they tend to divert the attention of the forces of the UPDF wherever they build. They want also to indicate that no, you have not inherited us. We're still somewhere. We are here, and then they come up, and of course, when you see them attacking soft targets, their mind may not be that they literally want to push, or I think what they want is to make a statement to say we still exist, to possibly account to their financials that we are still here. Don't cut funding because we are still active, because like we said, we know that definitely ADF links into Al-Shabaab, which is an international terrorist organization, meaning that if you look at ADF now, we're looking at that ADF that is possibly not fully controlled by itself, but that has tentacles within other circles that maybe give them a program, that give them a budget, that give them funding, that give them arms. So in the process, you may not fully talk about they themselves being them, like possibly before, like in the Kichwamba period, where they were possibly self-engineered. Now we can see a foreign hand, which is also like in the Sahel regions, kind of pushing them to be active and to do something. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Has government done enough to see that such attacks are minimized? And has government also done enough to train their security forces to be on alert or to be 100% accurate when it comes to detecting such attacks?
Yeah, when you look at the sequence, ordinarily, I think they would love to attack every other day.
Yeah.
But if they can be kept at bay for 4 years, 2 years, even 1 year, would literally say, yes, government has done something. Though, once there is an incursion and a hit, then that indicates that they have not done enough. So that's how we rate security. If you look at the timing, you say, okay, these guys have been kept away without clear activity for a year, maybe from the time we had bombings in Kampala, there has been some kind of silence. That's why I'm much more inclined to think that our efforts, yes, the ADF is being contained, but then the internal thuggery, these road thuggeries, the highway thuggeries, or attacks on houses, attacks on the Wananchi and the poor people, I think that's where we're doing very poorly. But with ADFs, I think the country is doing so well.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about funding? You have talked about these people being funded by Al-Shabaab and stuff. Is there a way that government can stop the funds that come in to support these rebel groups?
Yeah, like any other government, of course, there's been a fight, there's been a control, there's been some kind of ways of affecting that kind of funding. And yes, to a certain extent, yes, I think as much of there are times when government has confiscated monies which cannot be, where there cannot be a good explanation. The government has tried to do this and the other. I don't know to what extent, because I'm not a government spokesperson, but at least being part of being in investigation, I've heard of several cases where money has been confiscated, sometimes the right way, sometimes the wrong way, and meaning that the government is also trying to fight this type of fundings. But fundings come in several ways. They can be given weapons, they can be given technical training, they can be given items, they can be given food. So of course, even as they fight to survive, I think the government is also fighting to inherit them.
Since we are still looking at the ADF, during the presidential address recently, General Museveni, of course, came out and said ADF having kicks of a dying horse. There's nothing, they are not strong enough as they used to be. Do you agree with the head of state on that?
Yeah, yes and no. Of course, when you look at his address, you could see that he gave the whole history and the encounters and what has been happening with the ADF vis-a-vis the UPDF, and you can see that to a certain extent, yes, they have been kept at bay. But keeping them at bay doesn't mean that they have been deeply affected. Otherwise, you wouldn't see even our forces wouldn't move to Congo to go and chase them, and chase after them, because they are following them because they are kind of an item. If they are to be inherited and they are possibly a kind of a spent force, then we wouldn't move our forces to go and pursue them. Yes, we have kept them at bay. Government has kept them at bay. UPDF has kept them at bay. That's good enough. But at the same time, we shouldn't kind of relax and say we have literally the ADF has now gone out of existence. They still exist, and we cannot deny that.
Yeah. Recently, I had a guest here, Honorable Ferigo, who is the Member of Parliament, Kasese. He was on ground when the Kasese massacre happened, and his view was that at the border, they were already informed that an attack was happening, but the UPDF, but the soldiers in Congo wouldn't allow UPDF to cross over and come and help these people who are going through this terror. Was that a wise decision for the people in Congo, or for the government to give us an excuse that the people in the security in Congo wouldn't let UPDF soldiers cross over to Uganda to help curb the massacre?
Thank you so much. I would say yes. And I may at one point say no, depending on the intelligence I may have at hand. Sometimes when there is an attack in your backyard, it's an indicator that someone is trying to pull you out so that he can hit you hard. So the immediate movement of forces to counter the attack could possibly have resulted into loss of soldiers and loss of weaponry, because they possibly were trying to entice them into moving backwards so that the ADFs could possibly, they could have had a mission to either move something or create an attack, because they wanted to put the forces in motion. So failing to move, I think to me, really not, of course, not having the full intelligence, but I would say that it was possibly a wise idea that the forces did not move just as there was an attack, because that kind of erratic movement would easily cause losses. Yes.
Okay. And you talked about intelligence, which also Genome 7 mentioned in his address, and he said that there were intelligence flaws by the security agencies. And my question would be, is the intelligence of Uganda strong enough, or do we need to beef it a little? What are the requirements of intelligence anyway, and are they on standard in Uganda?
Yeah, the standards I wouldn't, when you look at the internal weaknesses, more especially in the interior, you'll definitely say that I think sometimes we have had intelligence problems. Of course, we cannot say that they have not worked. They have done a lot, but there is also a lot to be desired, because if we are failing to deal with thuggery on the street, on the roads, so that we even have hot spots or death spots in Uganda, we are having another situation where guns are being misused, and maybe few cases are also solved. That in that self an indicator about that's a red light around our own security. But at the same time, when you look at the other side of the coin, you would have seen that when you follow the president's explanation, wherever been, I think there was a supposed attack, I think around either 2021, where the ADFs moved things through Toroko to come and create a similar kind of attack. And because they were monitored, they eventually informed the authorities, and I think about 26 out of 28 were killed. The LDF members were killed. Now, that's an indicator that the human element, the kind of one-inch element was fully used. When security people believe that they can do things on their own, and they minimize the public, they minimize the person, the people who live in the forests, who live in the gardens, who live in the markets, who know who is a visitor and who is not a visitor, and that kind of relationship between the public and the security is one of the biggest problems. It's one of the biggest spaces that has been left, and that's why possibly we have had situations like that recent one where a school was attacked and we lost students. Yes.
Okay. What would be the best way to train a country's intelligence in case that body is a government entity, and there is training to be carried out for these people to be very professional, what are some of the things they should look at while training intelligence officers?
It depends on the syllabus. You know, Americans and several other countries have made us to believe that they have to teach us if we are to perform. But we can build our own syllabus. We can build our own intelligence because we know the nitty-gritties of our country. An American may not be a good investigator in Uganda. Yes, they may have the weaponry, they may have the gadgets, they may have their experience in their own way. We have our own experience in our own way. What we have failed to understand is that we are authorities in our own intelligence system. So the syllabuses we use are much more foreign. And that's why you see they come up with a CID officer, we come up with an intelligence officer who is almost a white. Who cannot literally get what he has been taught and relate it to what is in Uganda, what is in Kasese, how do you pick information locally, how do you investigate locally, and in the process, as he's applying those high-handed class, high-class intelligence issues, they don't work here. So we have to build our own intelligence. So we have to teach our own people depending on our own culture. You know, intelligence is also almost like culture. How people behave, how people appreciate, how people do this. You will go to Somalia and you'll have a problem doing their own intelligence because there are many things you don't understand. You may not understand their culture, you may not understand their language, you may not understand their behaviors. So I believe that one, we should build our own culture, our own intelligence, our own syllabuses, our own books of intelligence. Then two, we should also involve the human element deeply. You know, they have told us that cameras can solve criminal. I mean, lots of intelligence hurdles. But literally, a camera is like your eye. And you know, God has given us so many eyes in every bit of a nation, in every area. Their eyes. How do we train the eyes to observe? How do we train the mouths to report? And besides that, where do we report? If a Mananchi comes up with information, is he secure enough to work in a police station and he gives that information and is taken in confidence and reacted upon? You can see that there are areas where the people have observed, seen some kind of alarming situations, and they have nobody to tell. The only example the president gives here is where the Wananchi in Toroko observed, reported, and the security reacted in time, and that's how the situation was saved.
You are trying to say the Wananchi should be trained to be the ones to report intelligence cases?
They are not trained, but we can call it orientation. They should be oriented and given the confidence to give information, so that whatever information they give can be shaped and kind of processed into what we call intelligence.
Okay.
Yeah.
The ADF is still camping in our neighbor, DR Congo, and the president in his address said, of course, he said he's in good relationships with the president of DR Congo, His Excellency Felix Tshisekedi. And I'm thinking, why then are the ADF soldiers still camping in Congo if the relationship between Uganda and Congo is okay and is doing well?
Thank you. We have to understand that Congo itself is almost 10 times as big as Uganda, 10 times the size of Uganda. So you can imagine, and with several forests, big forests, and there are many areas which even Tshisekedi's officers cannot even easily reach, deep into jungles, deep into forests. So we have been allowed because when you're dealing with a nation, when you're dealing with a neighbor, you should spell the relationship. There is an area where Uganda has been allowed to operate in, and of course, maybe with the time. There was a problem with Mobutu, there was a problem with Kabila. Now we have a relationship with Tshisekedi, meaning that as we perform well, in that period in the area which has been given to Uganda, then possibly he'll give Uganda more space. But if we misbehave, like you remember the fights which Uganda and Rwanda had in Congo, which had that effect. You remember the accusations, the timber, gold, and whatever accusations. So basically, it is a starting relationship, and if UPDF behaves and does well, I'm sure they'll be allowed more space to operate.
What is the problem with UPDF? What is wrong with their behavior, or how can they solve the behavioral problem?
By then, I think they literally had some. They had issues of maybe indiscipline. There was that situation of the accusations. I don't know how far true it is, but this time I think they have been fairly smooth. They have been fairly smooth. We have had almost no complaints from Somalia. I've not had there are very minimal complaints, the normal complaints in the Operation Suja, meaning that our force is developing into they are kind of dealing with the indiscipline.
ADF, the UPDF some of the soldiers were sent to Somalia to protect and help curb the ongoing war there. But recently we saw attacks on their camps, 2 of their camps. Do you think this is the problem of UPDF being on alert, or is it the problem of the Somalian troops being stronger?
Yeah, they wouldn't. If you want to succeed in any war, you don't underrate your enemy, however small he may appear. Here is a situation that UPDF became overconfident, because for all the years, maybe 5-7 years, we had not had a real serious attack. So in the process, there was that kind of relaxation. So I think the Somalis, being in their own country, managed to master better intelligence than our own forces, and in the process, they hit us hard. Yes.
Okay, I'd like to go back a bit to the private investigators issue. Other countries, for example, the USA, Germany, and the United Kingdom, they rely so much on private investigators. For example, I'll give an example of what happened to General Katumba Wamala years back when he was almost assassinated, and up to now we do not have clear report of who might have been behind this attack. And I'd like to ask you, do you think private investigation should be something that Ugandan government should take up? Will it be important in solving such cases? Because we have even Kagezi, the late Kagezi, we have very many people who have been murdered in that way, and their murderers have not been brought to book to date.
Thank you so much. I happen to be the grandfather of private investigation in East Africa and Uganda. I must have been I should be the living author because we were 3 people. It was I, Freddy Egesa, and a company called Missing Link Investigators. Then we had Interread. Then we had Kampala Bureau of Investigations. The Bakunda, the Interread was Bakunda. Darlington Bakunda, the late, and then we had the late Mugambo also of Kampala Investigation, and several others have come up now, and we are really trying to make sure we shield them from distraction, so that in a few mistakes here and there, but they're coming up. Yes, we have solved so many murder cases. We have handled so many murder cases. We are on record to have testified in court as expert witnesses. We are on record to have investigated very complex murders in this country. We are on record to have literally handled many bank frauds, many cases. Yes, private investigation here. I'm happy to note that the government has not fought us very, very much. Of course, we have had individuals who have kind of resisted us. But in several countries, private investigation should be a resource. Should be a resource where all great retired officers hibernate into, run to, and keep there. They are kind of a resource. In fact, like many of the guys who go for training in these countries, they're not trained by the mainstream army or the mainstream intelligence officers. No, they are trained by those companies of private security organizations. And because This is where it is only in Uganda where we retire officers and send them home. After training them, after taking them through so many courses, then we say your time is up, go home. Now, when they go home, what happens? They leave a lot of space, a lot of unoccupied space, as in intelligence knowledge, training, tactics, and so many things. I've seen the way, like when I see policemen arresting a person as if fish is struggling for a frog. I just wonder, because we wouldn't do that. We knew how to deal with a situation. So what I'm saying here is that it is very, very important. Of course, some of us are aging, and soon we shall go to look after cows. But I'm saying that government has to understand that preserving private investigation, preserving investigators, preserving ex-servicemen is another way of creating a resource. It will be like a think tank. Police would just walk in and say, we are having this problem, how do we solve it? The guys out there know. But because they have been retired and made tired, and you find a retired officer, maybe an SSP, walking like he doesn't even have good shoes, he's literally ragtag. Now, but he's carrying a lot of knowledge. So who is a loser? He's a loser, yes, but even government and the country, we are losers.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you so much. But is it safe anyway to become a private investigator in Uganda? Because I'm looking at a situation where if you are known as the grandfather of private investigation, then you could be a target, an easy target for the people who do not want to be brought to book.
In life, everybody is a target. When you jump on the border, you're a target. When you're in the vehicle, you're a target. When you're walking the bushes, you're a target. A snake can target you. So any job has its own hazards. Nobody has killed me. Nobody has killed me. But I've handled cases in this world. I don't know. I'm on record. I've handled cases here. I've handled cases in Kenya. But nobody has killed me. Because I know it's God who takes off the switch.
Yeah.
Whether you want to struggle to live and God touches the switch, you'll go. But I think it is very important that even in very difficult or very challenging professions, we should serve our country. That's how I look at things. And I've been that brave to do my work, and possibly that's why I've kept a name and the popularity.
You have been that brave, but I'm thinking about other people who are coming into your footsteps. Are they well trained enough? Do they even want to be trained, or do they want to do things their own way? Because I believe private investigation comes with experience, comes with knowledge. You're supposed to know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. So I'm thinking about the younger generation of private investigators that are coming up. Do they really have what it takes to carry on your legacy?
Of course, as I age gracefully, one of the ideas, one of the minds I would love to have is to have possibly a school of investigations where I can possibly lecture, where I can call in other elders to teach these young people, even police. We have sometimes gone to the police and begged them that we should help them, give them some of the little knowledge we have, and they have never allowed us. So you'll just be surprised about this country. This is a country where people don't care about learning. People just want to do things their way. But when you do things your way and you kind of underlook such knowledge that the Lord has allowed us to acquire, then you are the loser. Yes, the country is the loser, and those who want to be are losers.
Interesting. Let us get to the issue of gangs. We have street children first who develop and become gangs, and then they start terrorizing Ugandans. They are located in places called slums, for example, Katanga or Chiwunya in Nakulabe back home. And then we have those at the Northern Bypass who are causing a lot of trouble security-wise. And I'm just wondering, how would the government solve such an issue, considering it's been lingering around us for years?
Of course, we don't have a real problem here. It's not like you cannot compare this country to South Africa or to other countries where they have hardcore criminals. Here we have allowed a lot of space to crime that it is now developing. Crime is a monster. I've always said this. Crime is a monster. If you allow it to have space, it will feed well, it will gain muscle, it will become a problem. If you deal with it, of course, no country has ever eliminated crime, but you have to manage it. Crime has to be managed. Crime has to be dealt with. Crime has to be looked in the face so that it shies away from affecting the public. Now, these young men, really, the young people you see, are victims of poor management of crime. They are victims of poor management of society, because these are kind of desperate young people who find themselves running into being used as gangs just because they want to survive. But who uses them? That's where the intelligence problem is. Who uses them? Who gains out of this? Many of these boys, because of the poor intelligence, people have organized themselves into armies of thugs. And they recruit these young men. You get him, whatever you do to him, he will not even know who is his deployer, who deploys him, who gains out of this. Because many of the phones they grab, they kind of stab people, take the phones, and phones end up in our own shops. Phones end up in our own hands. Phones, laptops, there are people who buy them and even export them, meaning that the ringleaders are well-to-do big people. Now, you cannot tell me that our security, our intelligence has failed to break this racket. You'll kill all these boys, but others will come out.
Yeah.
You'll kill even there are girls now. You find a girl walking with a baby, a crying baby, and you stop to help her before you realize you're surrounded by thugs. Who deploys them? Now, when we get such a chance of getting one, do we literally does the intelligence go to the core to find out how this chap comes to the street to rob? Or do we just take him to court and then we forget? Now, another thing would be, how many of our own police officers, especially on posts, who gain out of this kind of behavior? You may find that someone grabs your phone and they say, no, you go to the police post, they will know who to call. I don't want to hear about that. That's nonsense. Are we weak enough that we have become party to the thuggery? Should the police even know the numbers of those who grab phones and then you say that they're not compromised? There are many questions here. Yes.
It's very, very sad actually, because it is said that when your phone is stolen, you can easily get it from the police itself, from going to a police post and they tell you your phone is here. My question would be, criminals working with the police, are we seeing this causing a problem? Are we even seeing it solved? Can we have a solution and from the authorities and say this can be stopped in this way or that way? And what would be your suggestion of stopping such behavior?
Now, if you have such information of saying that police, if you go to the police, you can recover your phone in a simple, without even him arresting anybody, that means that they have the intelligence. But who are these policemen? I wouldn't say the whole force. The whole force is okay, but we have some kind of weavers, some weavers within the forces. They are ever there, even with the society, families, and everywhere. They are always the black goats, the black goats within the families. So the police has a duty to counter their own officers and find out who deals with the criminals. Why are there criminals? Why should a DPC stay in an area and there are criminals for a whole year and it does not dislodge them? Why? So we should look also at the record of DPCs. I've always talked about a situation where I find a young DPC is building a very big house, and you say, but what is his? What is his income? I'm not saying that they should not develop, but is there anybody who follows him? In our own days, we used to have what we call special branch. The special branch would know if they're very nosy. Of course, they're kind of disappointing. They would find out why you have bought 5 shirts immediate like this. Why do you have? By then it was bicycles and possibly motorcycles and a few goats and cows. So someone would bother to know. You are an armed person and you have you're literally picking more things than your own income. Where is your addition? Where does your addition come from? And these questions kind of made the country to be safe. Today, there are no questions. You find a young DPC, a young man is driving a Benz, tomorrow is driving a Lexus, the other time is driving the other car, and nobody even among his bosses, and even gives, sometimes even bosses borrow his own, use his own car without asking how he has got that rich that fast. So I think there is so much to look at. Yes, we know our policemen are not well paid, but at the same time, and maybe we have not even cared about them, because we used to suggest that even they should have maybe duty-free shops, because the policeman, a general policeman takes like maybe less than 600,000 shillings, but he has a family, he has to hire a house, he has to educate children, he has to buy food, he has to take, he doesn't have a special medical facility where they take their own children, meaning that we have also left them on their own. So in the process, they are also feasting on us.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're still talking matters security, and we are getting to understand what exactly can be done to curb some of these issues that have been lingering around for some time. We've looked at the presidential address on security that was there recently, and we are still looking at a number of issues. We have the government that is yet to introduce a private company. We are going to see how, why, and when they will introduce it. When we return from the short break, remember we are powered by Protea Hotel by Marriott and Entebbe. My name is Nowamani. Stick around. We will be right back. Comfort and luxury at its best with Protea Hotel by Marriott. We are sponsored by them. They are located in Entebbe, and they do have a fully fledged kitchen. They have buffets, they have a swimming pool, they have a health club, steam and sauna. What don't they have? They are the place to be in case you're looking for a place to spend your comfort and luxurious time. My name is Nowamani. You're welcome back to Issues at Hand. I'm still with my guest today, Mr. Fred Egesa, a security analyst, and we are talking matters security, including our nation, Uganda. Where do we stand as a country when it comes to security? What are the breaches and how do we deal with them? Who is responsible? And of course, what are they supposed to be doing? I'd like to start off with the fact that the government is planning to come up with a private security agency. But before I go there, Mr. Fred Egesa, we have had very many private security companies that are not affiliated to government. Have they done a good job when it comes to, first of all, protection of entities? Because we've seen banks using them, we've seen hospitals using these private companies, residential homes. Have they done their role? And are they supposed to be trained by the police? Or is it that somebody just wakes up and says, you know what, I'm going to just become a security guard privately without even any training? So do you think they've done what their best?
Thank you so much. The history about private security starts here in Uganda. We used to have a company called Securico. Securico, these were retired policemen who of course, who were phased out because of age and several other reasons, and then they agreed that they come up with a private, with the Mzungu, Securico has been there even since the days of the earlier days. So it was because they wanted to absorb the teams that had been inactive engagement as security officers, but they could not be paid by government, so they created a kind of an alternative force, but at the same time an alternative payment for them. And so that's how Securico came up, and in the process, and it was, by the way, it had the monopoly. No other person could easily come up with a private security organization. But eventually, that kind of veil was lifted, and several other people came in, and because of the demand. Our police is very small. The force is very small. There's no way you can use the army to guard private facilities, though now it has been, the government has somehow tried to use it, like in industrial areas, but of course it doesn't even go well. So that's how private security was built, and private security is under the Police Act. They are managed, because it is a civilian force, they are managed under the Police Act. They are managed under the IGP. They have a desk, I think they have a commissioner or a director who now handles PSO, their PSOs. There is even a statute now, a law regulating them, meaning that if you are to come up with that, you have to know about what is entailed in that statute about how to deal with arms, because you're allowed to use arms. I think in Kenya, the private security organizations are not allowed to carry arms. They carry lungus. They use electronic items like maybe tasers. They use other things, other weapons, maybe like even pangas and whatever. But here we're allowed to carry a certain caliber of guns, a certain type of guns, not machine guns, but maybe semi-automatic rifles. Seeing these other 303s, rifles, pistols. So there's a catch of several weapons which are allowed to a private security officer, meaning that training has to be a must on gun use, gun operation, gun philosophy. A gun has a philosophy of its own. You have to prepare a person to understand that his mind has to understand. You know, a gun is a weapon, is something that attracts trouble. Yes, if you have a gun and someone maybe drives kind of bothers you on the road, you may find yourself misbehaving because you know you have someone something on you, and in the process you may end up getting into trouble. So there's that kind of preparation you have to go through to be told what you should do when you have a gun, so that it does not become obvious that you have a gun. Otherwise, in any case, you can easily be hurt, or you can hurt other people and end up in prison. So the training is a must. But I think the mistake was that everybody has been training his own people. Now, you may find that several of the people who manage private security organizations have managers who were even dismissed from the force, meaning that they went with their indiscipline. Now, if you turn that to be a manager and maybe is the field trainer, you are literally duplicating indisciplinados. Or if he has been a reckless person, or he has been a person addicted to temper, you are literally training you are duplicating tempers, and in the process you are going to have a lot of accidents. 3, it will be also the situation of intelligence. Who are these people you are recruiting? Who do you know them? Do you bother to do a lot of history about them? Are they people you can train? Do they have criminal records? So there is a lot to do when trying to train a security officer, because you're going to put this person in the house. Do you know his mental status? Do you know his crime record? Is he a rapist? You may only arm him to go and possibly rape a client. You may arm him to go and ravage a client. You may arm him to go and have access to. Many of them come to security companies only to access weapons, so that they can go back to their own job. That's why you hear others doing robberies here and there. Others are hot-tempered. That's why you have had them shoot their own bosses. They have shot their own colleagues. They have shot their own girlfriends. Now, it's not that it is a bad business. It has really helped. If we didn't have private security organizations, I don't know what would be happening. But at the same time, there are disadvantages we have to deal with, more especially like training, shiving and scrutinizing, intelligence on them, so that they can become a good kind of, we call them a supplementary force to the police.
Do we need it? Because do we need government to introduce another private company? Because we already have very many entities, security entities. We have the prisons, for example. We have UPDF and the Uganda police, and we have counter-terrorism under that, and many other forces. Do we need a private security company from government?
Yeah, what's happening now is there is what we call operation other than war. Government or Uganda has trained so many people. That's why there's now a section of within the army which handles the veterans, the guys who have been soldiers, the guys who have done police work, those who have done prison work, those who have been under the armed forces. There are many. They are retired and redundant. They are also almost they get so demobilized, and some of them even have temptations of becoming criminals. So in the process, I think what is happening is they are not taking soldiers into becoming private private PSOs. They are turning veterans into commercial guards. Like you'd see, the army now has turned to construction. You have seen them they have their construction companies, so that they absorb the extra force or the extra manpower, or even keep them as a reserve force in case there is war. You have heard about Russia, where they have now almost sacked out much of their reserve forces into the war. So meaning that if you do not have a reserve, it's like money. There's money you have in the pocket, and there is money you're reserving for that bad day. Now, these are forces government has to keep for the bad day. But how does the government keep them? Because they are not active. In the process, the government has to design ways of survival by allowing them to become party to commercial transactions, whereby they become useful.
Okay.
Yes.
Any tips on how they should be handled, or what they should do as soon as they start off, in order for them to cause something effective, to be effective to the security of Uganda?
Of course, these are guys now who have been they're under command. You know, it is very important to have two things when you're dealing with a force. One is command, and the other is control. They are literally they know that because they have been under command. Two, they have possibly they have been handling operations. Now, what possibly has to be pushed into their minds is the human rights dossier, to be told that you are going to deal with human beings. You're going to deal with people. You're going to guard homes where an erratic or stubborn son may choose not to use the gate but jump off a fence. Now, putting him out will be you're killing your own client. They have to be taught the nitty-gritties of the civil world, how the civil world operates. The indisciplined, how do you deal with homes? You go to a home, in the process you find beautiful daughters. How do you deal with them? You go in a home, and if you're a girl, you find handsome boys. How do you deal with them? You go in a home, and maybe the wife of that home minimizes you. How do you deal with it? You go in a home, and you find they have their dogs. How do you deal with it? There is so much. They cannot just assume that since we have been soldiers, now we know what to do. They have to be taken into deep training. You know, much of what we think of here is we think that if a person masters a gun, then he's a good gun. That's not true. A gun is like anything you can learn. In one day you can learn how to operate a gun, but you may never master the behavior, the way to manage yourself with that gun. More especially when you are possibly one alone in an enclosure, because they have been moving as teams. Now, we also need them. You know, like KCC has been using the army. They can hire these guys, but when they hire them, how are they going to deal with their wananchi? Are they well designed with that kind of human rights? Do they know the rights of the people, or they will behave like military police? You have seen when there's a riot or when there's an uprising and military police comes in, they don't care. They'll just crush you. Theirs is to finish a job, because they are not supposed. They are only brought in to handle very hard situations. So that's why sometimes we say, why should they even be deployed when there are issues that could be handled by police and prisons? Because they are not that deeply trained or oriented into human rights handling. Okay. So if these guys, I've said that it's okay. They can come in to add to the economics of the country. They can also come in to earn. They can also come in so that our reserve force is preserved. But at the same time, what are the effects if they are not well trained? And now they say, no, they are well trained because they are soldiers. That's not enough. Because we are not going at war. We don't have war. They are not being sent to handle wars. They are being sent to handle to kind of protect individuals, protect farms, protect factories. How are they going to behave? Will they shoot whoever they see? Will they, at what extent will they use the gun? And that's now the question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Maybe in 1 minute you can wrap up by telling us what you expect Uganda to be in the future security-wise, just in about 2 minutes.
Thank you so much. Of course, I'll definitely air my disappointment about His Excellency's speech, because I expected so much. I expected so much about the general security. I expected so much about thuggery. I expected so much about fraud. I expected so much about corruption, because these are the cores that are kind of derailing our country every other day. If people live in houses where they night sleep because anybody will knock at their door and break into their homes. If you have situations like gangs which even have canine, gangs in Kampala had also developed their canine units. They have killer dogs. Their dogs are like the pit bulls. That dog can kill any dog. Where they have dogs, that means they can kill a dog, can even hand an armed guard. Now, where are these dogs? Who raises these dogs? There are many things we have to look at and deal with. There are dogs which are outlawed in countries like Britain, but here we raise them. Now, someone has realized that having that dog is better than even having a gun. And even if he uses that dog on you, tomorrow if he's arrested, you'll only be charged with theft. Where instead of being like, that same dog can be used better than a gun, because it has life and it can even take orders. Now, here when you're arrested, the charge is very minimal, just because nobody has bothered to study to realize and say, no, a person found robbing with a dog is a robber and should get a maximum punishment like he had a gun. Now, we should be into research of our own crime troubles, that we have to come up and design a way we deal with it. So yes, the president talked so much about ADF, and literally I followed, and I would say he was literally excellent. He was on point. Yes, but these ADFs may have they are kind of a scratch here and there, but they are not the main problem. The main problem in this country is thuggery. The main problem in this country is corruption, which has kind of destroyed hospitals, which has kind of destroyed development. Now we have what we call the stock thefts. The government is talking through at several programs, OWC and everywhere, but someone is there only stealing cows, picking cows from every house, picking maize from every store, and we're not bothered. So in the process, you find that the middleman called Mr. Thief is thriving, while government is losing revenue and the local person is losing earning. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was issues at hand. Of course, there are very many issues to deal with. And of course, I believe that even if it's a thief of a chicken, later they will develop and start stealing other things. And so it is very, very wise of the security forces in Uganda as a government to come up with ways of training these people to handle such situations. Also, the introduction of a private security company would be a very good initiative as far as supporting Ugandan security is concerned. But again, training and research is a very, very needed tool in order to bring it to come to pass. My name is Nowamani. Thank you so much for being a part of Issues at Hand, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Stay safe, and from myself and the production crew, Edwin, Shama, as well as Muhumza, it is a good morning.